Hey y'all, welcome to the CIOPCC and this week's favorite collection. I have one more section of the Institute that I have not done an updated video on in the last year, and that is the red section over here. See that red wall back there? Yes, it's supposed to be DC. It's going to be a lot of Batman because my Batman kind of overtakes DC. But it does have DC stuff as well, Superman and some other characters. It'll cover the two big 8-foot towers here in front, as well as the red wall. I'm going to put it off because it's the big section, so it's going to be a long video. So let's get into it. Wander on over here to the red wall. Now, it is, of course, next to the gray wall. The gray wall was Batman. And up here at the top, you'll notice these really cool WB wall hangers. I didn't mention these when I was mentioning my Batman the Animated Series collection. My miss. But as you can see on the gray side is the Batman ones. And on the red side is the Justice League ones. It's almost like I was trying to separate Batman and DC. Isn't that amazing? Down here at the bottom, we have that cool Superpowers poster from Sideshow and a couple of the big guys from Toys R Us. Those are about 3 feet tall, along with some other odds and ends. Now, I've done a lot of collection videos related to some of the collections in this section, so you'll see some stuff that if you've watched other collection videos, you might have seen in greater detail. Like, for example, this Batman line from Mattel. This was the predecessor of one of the greatest lines of all time. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. The Batman line morphed into DC superheroes. You'll see carded versions up above, along with all those loose ones down below. And actually, there's a couple San Diego Comic-Con box sets down there at the beginning that I didn't mention that are signed by the Four Horsemen, because the Four Horsemen started their journey with Mattel during this period. And it continues to roll along. I'm a completist on this line. I have everything they did, including some of the European releases. And then down here at the end, we have another Comic-Con exclusive. That would be Man-Bat. Down below there is the clear version, I think, that was, you know how Mattel, like, not only did an exclusive, but a variant of the exclusives that you couldn't find. So both of those are up there. That line morphed into the DCUC, which we'll see a whole bunch of in a minute. That's a puzzle. On this shelf, this is a great example of some stuff that might end up going into storage when I need the space. There's some 9-inch here at the front. These are all by Hasbro. And in back, we have a bunch of carded Total Justice. Now, to be honest, Total Justice is not a line I really like all that much. But you know what? I had a bunch of it still carded, threw it up there on the shelf where I had room, and I thought, hey, for now, that's pretty cool. You'll see some loose Total Justice in a minute, too. Now, here's a section that's never going anywhere. This is the Legends of the Dark Knight. I love this line. And again, this is a complete line, everything they did. All of it carded and most of it loose as well, including that cool motorcycle that they gave Batman. You know, he didn't get a lot of motorcycles in most lines, but they gave him one in that one. Now, as we come down here, you're going to see the Rogues Gallery for Batman the Animated Series, along with some other box sets and loose figures. These are Kenner and Hasbro, of course. Fantastic Batmobile. And you're also going to see mixed in some customs, because there were figures we thought we might never get, and some we never did, like that Anarchy there. I'm not really completist on the Kenner line. I know that seems weird, doesn't it? I do have all of the villains, both carded and loose. That's kind of what I was going for. And but there are plenty of other Batman and Robins that I did not pick up. I only picked up the ones I really liked. Some puffy stickers down there on the end. One I wanted to mention, you know, those are some really cool pins here in the middle for the show. Down on the next, we get a little more DC-ish with Superman. Now, I'm not a huge Superman fan, but I did like Superman the Animated Series, as you might imagine. You're also going to see a number of Christmas ornaments hanging around at different spots here. And there's actually a Christmas ornament video. I'm kind of lingering there on Darkseid because they did do the 2 color versions of him. They didn't do enough villains, really, with this series. There's a Metallo, of course, but they did a Brainiac. Livewire is a custom because I was really disappointed that we hadn't gotten her yet. Another one of those Christmas ornaments. I wasn't really trying to get all of the Superman the Animated Series either, although I think I ended up with all of them. Because, again, there were just so many Superman variants and not enough other figures. Here we have DC Direct getting into some Superman. And Mattel. And these great Alfred E. Newman figures in front. These are fun. And some movies. Movie figures. Now, Mattel also did this series called Movie Master. No, what do they call them? Yeah, Movie Masters. That's what they called them. And this was during that whole Nolan period. Now, down here at the bottom, you'll notice a bunch with that that are the Joker, but they have all the different masks as an accessory, which I thought was really cool. This one I am complete on is all those Movie Masters, including here we have a couple that were, that one in the back there in the box. Here on the right, that was a San Diego Comic-Con. And there is the Build a Bat Signal. That came with the figures. You put it together. In front, there was some more. In the middle, there's some more of the cheesy Mattel, but these are the better ones. It was interesting that Mattel did the two lines. You know, kind of the cheap, cheesy versions and the much better versions. That Bat Pod is one of my favorites. It's such a favorite that down here at the bottom where we got some more boxed Batmobiles. Remember, at one point, I was like a Batmobile nut. Bought every Batmobile made. I kept a Bat Pod carded, or rather boxed, so I could see how that looked in the future. I always like to keep at least one carded figure in every line for future sake, future reference. That's a great Dark Knight Collection Batmobile, another Bat Plane, and some more Batmobiles. You know, Hasbro love to just take the same mold and repaint it and throw in another figure with it and do it over and over. And in front there on the floor, some of those Microverse figures. I really love those too. Those are really cool. One other thing to mention down here on the bottom is the terrific Batman Forever playset. This was an excellent release. And it's complete there with the Batmobile, the Batplane's hanging out down on that end. I threw a bunch of different figures up on top of it. You had to have a lot of room to play with that baby. And the Justice League poster in the back. Up on the ceiling, there's a Batman Returns helicopter. And let's come down this way so you can see a little bit better that animated series Batplane that's up on top. Let's come down to the end of this first 8-foot tower here and start on the end, because that mold, this is the version from the Burton movies that Kenner did, and then that got reused a whole bunch of times, including Batman the Animated Series. You can see the other side of it on this here. As a matter of fact, there's a bunch of Bat Caves there in the back. There's the Shadow Cave, or Shadow Cast Bat Cave. Another one over here. They repainted and redid those a number of times. In back are some of those San Diego Comic-Con Batman releases. And in front are the NECA quarter scale Superman and Batman, except for the Catwoman. That is a Tonner Catwoman there. That continues down here, where in front we have the quarter scale Batman Returns stuff. And more boxed weird Batmobiles in back. Again, while there I went nuts on every Batmobile that came out I bought. And a couple of the really terrific Hallmark Batman ornaments. Go down around this side. Got some odds and ends down here at the end, including that Javelin 7 from Justice League. We're going to see a whole bunch of the Justice League stuff in a minute. And some more DC Direct stuff too. And let's come down around this side and let's quickly talk about these. You've already seen these are all Marvel. We're kind of crossing the Marvel section. But in back, we have a couple of key Batman things, including the Batman Batcave. Actually, yeah, it's kind of the Batcave. And the Justice League Watchtower down here in the back. Along with some other, you know, the Strike Wing and the Supermobile boxes up there. Down here at the end, we have another San Diego Comic-Con exclusive that has a great audio feature. I usually don't do many of the 4-inch stuff, but I had to keep that one. It was just so cool. And then we get into one of the greatest lines of all time, DC Universe Classics. You can see the ones there up on top. Those are on a TMNT playset. This is a line I am absolutely complete on. except for one. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here's some more Batmobiles lined up. I did this special display for them because up on the top shelf, I wanted to have a way for you to be able to see them. And there was a whole bunch of loose ones I wanted to have available. And in back, if I backed up further, you can see that there's some radio control Batmobiles on there too. So let's come down a row and do some more of this DCUC, DC Universe Classics. Like I said, I am complete on this line. Loose or carded, one or the other. Not complete carded and complete loose, but combined, I am complete. And most of those carded ones in back would be the variants that we got in each wave. Lots of Build-A-Figures, lots of fantastic releases. This is one of my top 10 lines of all time. And I've done a much more in-depth video on these before. This is, of course, what those DC superheroes and that Batman line morphed into for Mattel. Starro mask. But as we come down around the other side, you're going to see some more of that evolution. First on this end, we have some McFarlane Suicide Squad, as well as some other of the big McFarlane figures. I like the Clayface and the Man-Thing, the Man-Bat. Those are really great. And some Invincible. Those ones in back, Toy Biz, those are the variants of the legendary superheroes. Those are actually our legendary comic book heroes. The normal ones are on another shelf in another section. I kept the carded ones over here because I had room. And then we get into some other, more of this Mattel stuff that was all part of this evolution of their lines. And again, you'll notice everything from Batman and Robin to some of the other Mattel lines in back carded, so that I always have at least one carded example to show people. Come down around this side over here. Plenty more. Some of these double packs. They did love to pack this stuff up. Not as bad as they did with Justice League Unlimited, but still. There are plenty of reuse throughout this line. But this was a terrific body on this figure. Great articulation and some really, really cool releases that I never expected we'd see in any DC line. Now we get into another Mattel line. DC Universe, you'll see, but this is the Justice League, or down here we've got some more of the DCU. But this is the Justice League Unlimited stuff. Lots and lots of that. And yeah, you got to use lots and lots of museum putty to keep these guys up. They did 2-packs and 3-packs and 6-packs and 7-packs. They did everything with this line, along with their single releases. I am not a completist on this line. There are figures that only came in certain packs in certain ways at certain conventions. It's nuts how many figures there are in this series. If I do ever see one that I don't have, I pick it up, but there's only a handful left that I need, and they tend to be impossible to find, so. Now, Batman the Animated Series from DC Direct and then McFarlane outdid that Kenner line, and I am complete on the DC Direct versions. I'm sort of complete at this point on McFarlane as well. There's the Batmobile, which I'm thinking, I've got the Batmobile, the new one, and it's kind of bluish. I think I'm going to swap this one out with the blue one and sell this one because I have a boxed version of the black one, the old one from DC Direct, in storage. So that way I would have both Batmobiles, get rid of this one. Rather than, I was thinking about getting rid of returning the blue one, but then I thought, well, it is different. McFarlane Joker Mobile down here. Montoya set. There she is on the end of it. The rest of the figure's all still cellophane wrapped. More of those ornaments, as you can see. But yeah, I am complete on the DC Direct versions. There's just a few of the McFarlanes that I bought recently, and I'm like, you know, these are exactly the same as the other ones. There's no Build-A-Figure part. Do I really need to do that? No, not really. Not just for the packaging. So the McFarlane ones, the only ones I'm buying are those that are distinctly different in colors, like the, you know, the Gordon, which also you can see the two Gordons here. The one is distinctly different than the DC Direct paint job. The Bullock's the same way. You're getting that cell shading on Bullock, you know, and the original Bullock didn't have that. But if it's not a distinct color, doesn't have a Build-A-Figure part, I won't be buying the McFarlane one just to say I've got it. And that finishes off the DC Direct Batman the Animated Series on that side. And as you can see on the flip side of that other side is the rest of the Justice League Unlimited. Plenty of those. There's also some mix. You can see that the Joker-mobile, of course, that was Batman the Animated Series. Some of the stuff is mixed in because of the scale and style was similar, and they did do some of the animated Batman stuff in the JLU line, or at least figures that could fit in with that. But put them all over here, plenty of space. Toyman's one of my favorite down there at the end, as well as Lobo. Now, when we come down to the next shelf, and we're going to go the other way. Let's go around the other way. Let's talk about DC Direct. As you can see, there's a lot of it along with the Mattel on the right. Stuff to the left is DC Direct. And no, I was never trying to be a completist on DC Direct. Man, they did everybody a million times over. Every version, every art style. But what was nice about that is these are figures that really spoke to me, right? Man-Things and Scarecrows and Killer Crocs. They were characters I really liked. And, of course, plenty of versions of Batman that I was able to pick and choose. So, yeah, this is a much more choosy series. Again, there's a video, I believe, of just my DC Direct stuff. So if you want to check that out, feel free. We come down around this side, we get a little more vintage, which is some comic action heroes, the Mego stuff, along with the playset they had. These comic action heroes were pretty cool. And the pocket action heroes had the straight legs. The comic action heroes had the bent legs. And we get into a little bit of the Burton stuff. So we've got Batman Returns. It was an okay line, but it was really the Dark Knight collection. You can see a couple of them there that I really liked. That was a great series. We got this nice Batcave out of the deal, which works really well with 4-inch figures. And the rest of the Dark Knight collection back there. NECA did a couple of the Batman. They did the video game one there in the box, and they did the regular release. And now, we're getting into some superpowers. As well as in back, we won't really talk too much about them because nobody cares about them as much, but the DC Comics superheroes that Toy Biz did, I'm pretty complete on all of those. I think I'm complete on all of those. But the superpowers, I am not complete on. What's funny is we always talk about how lines, you know, like we'll talk about a line from the 90s and act like it's right yesterday and how common they are. Remember, I was collecting superpowers in the early 90s when these things were less than 10 years old. And they were pretty much impossible to find at that point. Now we can talk about the reasons why that changes. But it was different. I am missing 3 DC superpowers. We'll talk about them when we get to the loose ones down on the next shelf. Over here we have some more Mattel. Tons and tons and tons. This is where they morphed into this series after they finished up DCUC. But they still kept some of the Build-A-Figure concepts. You can see back there we got the really cool Killer Croc and Clayface. King Shark. Again, I have a whole video on that series. And let's go down to the bottom and finish up down here. Batman Brave and the Bold. And I'll just mention down at the bottom, there's a couple of the boxed vehicles. Again, I just love those Batman vehicles. Batman Brave and the Bold is another one. I don't know, kind of like Total Justice. It's a cool enough line. I've got a little bit of it. I never tried to get all of it. But I thought it looked good on the shelf. However, push came to shove, it would be a line that I might say, you know what? Let's not worry about all of that. And let's replace it with something else really cool. That Batmobile is actually a maquette statue from the Warner Brothers store. Speaking of stuff we might get rid of and replace, this corner is cute. It's got all these little Action League figures as well as some of the Art Asylum stuff that they did, the little figures. Sort of like Lego, but not Lego. Some of it boxed. Some of it's pretty hard to come by these days, especially that Action League stuff. But, yeah, it's not really a scale I love, and, you know, it's possible that that's something that will eventually end up going bye-bye. A couple of Barbie dolls. There is a top 10 of my Barbie figures in one of the videos. On the back side of the Superpowers over here, we have these re-releases that Mattel did. A couple of boxed vehicles. Down the bottom down here too. That's just the box for the Darkseid Destroyer. You'll see that in a second, as well as some more of the animated series stuff that I still have boxed. And we get into the loose Superpowers down around this way. The three I'm missing, and I'm more than happy to get them loose. Cyborg, of course, everybody's missing Cyborg. Plastic Man, and Golden Pharaoh. Those are the three I still need to find someday. I assume I'll eventually break down and buy a Plastic Man and a Golden Pharaoh. But Cyborg, I don't ever really anticipate he'll get added into the collection. Here we got some Mego. I'm not a huge Mego collector. I have a handful here and there. Got some of the Star Trek, and I've got some of the Western figures, of course, as well as these. The cool one there, of course, is the Batman back there with the removable cowl. Back over here, we have some more DC Direct. These are a lot of the Arkham Asylum style. I love that Solomon Grundy, and the Killer Croc's nice too. Some of these I've still kept carded. We've got some space here. We could open some of that, do some rearranging, and gain some more space on the shelf too, by the way. Down here on the floor, so we don't forget, we've got the 80-page giant Batman set. This was another San Diego Comic-Con set. And because it's not technically DC Universe Classics, but it is that same body style, that same buck. And so I had to get that. And also on this side over here, we had some more. Those are some of the Burton Batman vehicles and Superpowers poster, as well as the terrific comic book that introduced Harley Quinn. Framed and ready to go on the wall. But that's one thing I don't have very much of in the Institute is wall space just to hang poster pictures and stuff. I only have a little bit, and it's all taken up. Here we have the Batman line. Now, I did love this line. I haven't looked to see if I'm complete. I'm pretty sure I've got most of it. I've got all the unique characters anyway. And then as you can see in back, we've got all of the Catwoman figures that they did as a Comic-Con exclusive, including the hard to get one with the gold cat statue. Each one has a different color cat statue, is what makes them unique. And there we go. One other thing up on the ceiling, of course, is the Bat Plane. They're reissuing, McFarlane's reissuing this as well. Be interested to see if, like most of the reissues, like the Batmobile, if there's some slight minor variations. Oh, and I think that was it. I mentioned those two things up on the ceiling over there, and then we get into the blue section. Oh, we do have the Bat Plane up over here from Batman Returns, as well as one of the other Bat vehicles. So, there you go. Did it in less than a half hour. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're looking at any of these collections specifically, especially DCUC or JLU, those will have their own videos. I think the DCD might have its own video. I know the Batman the Animated Series has its own video, etc. So make sure you check that out. Until Friday, I'm going to be doing another acquisition report, and we've got about 7 really cool things we've added this week. It was a surprise week, added way more than I had expected. and a couple things I hadn't expected showed up in the mail. So, great week for collecting. Hopefully you're having a great week for collecting. Make sure you subscribe. And until Friday, have a great one.